this. And so this will be available for use later. This topic is very timely because for those who are up for their upcoming merit and or promotion, this will be very helpful. So not to delay, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Yokomori. And if you have any questions, please do post it in the chat. And I will we will answer them as they come, or we'll do them at a certain time in the point. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you for coming to the webinar today on how to fill out AP-10. Can you see the slides okay? And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So so today, since Dr. Parek already introduced everyone, so I'm going to skip this, and hopefully I think the Dean's analysts are also here to answer questions or correct me when I say something wrong. And so first, I just wanted to reiterate the deadlines. So if you're planning to submit files for the year 23-24, then the deadlines is shown here. So if you're going for either normal or accelerated promotions, November 1st is the deadline. And most of other ones, deadlines October 3rd. So those include mid-career appraisal, 5-year reviews, advancement to professor step 6, and both normal and accelerated merit. And only the above scale actions and deemed delegated merit, the deadlines December 1st. And the one thing that I like to emphasize is that the information you can include in this file is any events that happen before September 30th of this year. Okay, so just please remember that. And the purpose of this webinar is to really try to help you to hopefully effectively fill out the AP-10 form so that we can avoid unnecessary delay of correcting mistakes back and forth. And also your, the effort and accomplishments are properly recognized and reviewed by the reviewers in CAP. So these are the items that you need to prepare. So in addition to AP-10, which contains any information within the review period, you're going to provide CV, which basically include all your career achievements. And if you're going for promotions or are going for above scale, then you need outside letters. And then you need to provide 2 pieces of evidence for teaching excellence. One is your teaching statement, and also teaching evaluation. So this is very important, and the department admin person could help you with this obtaining the teaching evaluations. And also, although it's not required, but CAP strongly recommend you to have short personal statements for research and service, and which I'll come back to it towards the end of the talk. And also the inclusive excellence and diversity statement is only required for the initial appointment. And actually, CAP encourage you to put this information to proper place within the AP-10. Okay, so the new AP-10 form was published last June 6, 2022. So make sure to use that new format, a new form, because it has the new sections, which is CAP now recognize your effort to improve your teaching, research skills, leadership skills by taking any professional development, doing professional development activities. And I'll cite examples as we go, but those now you should document, and CAP will recognize your effort. And one thing I'd really like to emphasize is that AP-10 form is just so complicated or intricate that you cannot just give blank AP-10 form with your CV and ask department analysts to fill it out. It just doesn't work that way. And the faculty members are really responsible for filling out AP-10 form as accurate and effective as possible. And the departmental analyst role is to make sure that they're formatted reasonably, and also some of the information that you can check accuracy. Okay. And so the AP-10 addendum contains these 5 sections. First section is just employment history, and the rest of the sections really reflects the review criteria. So those are teaching, mentoring, And the creative activities for basic faculty members, basically it's the research and research. And then also professional and university service and professional recognition. And for those of you who have clinical duties, there's a fourth criterion, which is the clinical competence. And so you have to make sure that all these four elements are properly documented in AP-10 and then summarized in the departmental letters. Oh, and then I should mention that for the adjunct series, you are only required to cover 2 out of these 3 criteria. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so this is the header of the AP-10. And so you need to write, your name and then also, hello? Oh, you need to write the review period. And I suggested you consult with the admin person in the department to make sure that you have the correct review period. And then looking down at the bottom of the form, make sure that it said 622. So that's the newest AP-10 form. So the section 1 is just your employment history. And here, not just write your ranks, but you need to write your steps. And throughout the AP-10 form, the general rule is that the newest at the top and oldest at the bottom in reverse chronological order. And here, I think the department analyst could check the accuracy of the time period. And if you started out as a project scientist, for example, before becoming a faculty member, or if you just recruited from UCLA where you were a faculty member there, you can write those down here in a section B. And section 2 is a teaching and mentoring. And so the section 2A is any course that you taught at UCI. And so any courses that has a course number, you can put it here. And the course number usually associated with a specific quarter, so you should be able to provide these information. So make sure you have all this information indicated at the top included. So which quarter and which year you taught this course number, the course title, and number of students enrolled, and the number of instructors are involved. And if these instructors divided the teaching load equally, then the percentage taught should be 100 divided by the number of instructors, in this case 4. And so the percentage taught would be 25%. So something like that. And one thing that I was reminded by the Dean's analyst to remind you is about asterisks and underlines. So those courses where you provided the teaching evaluations, please put asterisks next to it. And those courses that you offer regularly, either every year or every other year, please put underline. Okay. And because any courses that have a course number you can list, so undergraduate research, which often was taken under Bio 199, you can list those and you can put the number of students, and you're pretty much the mentor, so the one instructor, and percent taught will be 100%. Also, the graduate student research, and I didn't put it here, but the journal club 200 and 202, these can be listed here, and also the rotation. And again, you list this reverse chronological order, newest at the top would be helpful. And if you happen to teach other courses outside of UCI, you can put it at the end of this section. All right, and here the next section is section 2B and C is for clinical teaching So the basic faculty members, you can just leave these 2 sections blank and it's no problem. And Dr. Parek will explain this a little bit more details.
So for those who, are mainly clinicians, you have different types of clinical duties that you may be doing. So Part B talks about when you have medical students, or if you have pharmacy students or nursing students, any type of health professional students working or teaching with you. These are the different subheadings we usually ask people to think about it, is in if you're rounding on the wards. So you would list the number of students, the 2-week or 1-month rotation, the number of hours you spent teaching, and how many days a week that you did this. Another way is if you are, some of us have ward service endoscopy rounds all together. So you can put that together for a 1-week block. Some of us are on the outpatient side where you're seeing patients in the clinic and you may have a student rotate with you once a week or once every few months. So you can put that with the timeline and then how many hours each time the student came for the clinic. If you are giving lectures to these students, this is the part to put it in, and you would write what lecture you gave. For example, UCI neurology lecture series for medical students, brain tumors, the number of students who attended, and the date and how long you spent on it. Next slide. And you will do the same if you're teaching residents and fellows. So this is an example. If you are on medicine ward rounds, you had 1 to 3 residents. You do it 4 to 5 hours per week, and you did it every day if you were in that type of rotation. Or if you only did it for a week, you write it out, how many fellows and the dates, and then how many hours per day. Same thing with the clinic, and then same thing with the lecture. So very similar. So parts B and C are similar in that, and it's really important for you to track this when you are getting ready to do this. So if you have your program coordinators can send you their schedules, and this will help you extract that data. Next slide. And then let's say just some of the do's and don'ts. You don't need to list the names of the students, residents, or fellows. I know in the past people have done that. It is not necessary. It is necessary to list the dates of the service, the number of students, residents, or fellows, how many hours you spent teaching. And remember, in clinical teaching, there's also that apprentice style. So when you're doing rounds, when they're shadowing, that also counts. Please do list all the lectures given to students, residents, and fellows, but we don't want you to report this same lecture in another part of the AP-10. And so if your lecture was geared mainly towards residents, you could just say it was a lecture for residents. But if it's a mixed learner group, then you can list out 1 resident and 2 fellows. You could also list it out with the number of medical students that attended. So many times for the clinicians, let's say you're giving talks to your ward team once a week. Please do include those. Those are some lectures. If you're giving formal lectures, please include that. List journal clubs. List every thing that you've given. And one way, because a lot of the clinicians are very busy, you're doing this all the time, keep a special folder on your computer and jot it down, or keep a special Excel file to do that. Next slide. All right, so it is important to describe the nature of clinical teaching. And it's not just organizing, but if you gave the teaching, and medical student resident evaluations must be obtained. So usually in the training programs, there's set processes within departments to get student evaluations, but please do remember to check with your department analyst that was done. And it is important to make sure you indicate the total number of hours. And if you're doing, in the case of team-based teaching, the hours of which the evaluation was based on. All right, next slide.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now going to the graduate students. So this is PhD or Form D. So the section D1 is the doctoral students, and A is any students who obtain the degree within the review period. You're going to list this, even though you list the year, but make sure that the event happened within the review period before September 30th of this year or after October 1st of the beginning of the review period. And you're going to write the name, and then your role is pretty much either a member of the thesis committee or the chair, right? So either member or chair, and you put your department. And if those students advance to candidacy, you do the same thing, either chair or member. And also, most of the department, once the students advance to candidacy, they have to have annual committees until they graduate. So those can also be listed here. So you notice that maybe same students can be repeated multiple times, but that's okay. And then the D is if you have a rotation students, or if you participating in a preliminary exam committee, you can list those here. Moving on, so there's a master student, same thing, year, name, and your role and the department or the master program name. Postdocs, same. And the undergraduate students, if those students obtained Europe Award, the fellowship or scholarship awards for their research, I suggest that you list it here, because these provide a strong evidence of your excellence in mentoring, right? Because you're not just having these students to do chores in your lab, but you're giving them legitimate research project, which is competitive enough to get funding. And I see some people list those awards because there's a little money involved in the grants, but it's strictly speaking, it's not really your research grants, but it's the student's fellowship. So you should list it here. And it's really easy for the reviewer to see that you are doing excellent mentoring, okay? And then also here, down here is the visiting scholars, high school students. And also, if you are doing mentoring, research mentoring to medical students, fellows, and the residents, you can list their names here and your role. Okay. And I forgot to mention, but you notice that some letters here is shown blue and as opposed to black. If you hover your mouse over this, they have a pop-up menu that give additional details and instructions. And here they actually ask to provide some context, what kind of mentoring you did. So it doesn't need to be that long, but you can explain a little bit about the nature of your mentoring for the section 5. And moving on to E is if you obtain teaching award, that's another evidence for excellence in teaching, and you should mention that. And also if you have taught some special courses or have some teaching activities, you should definitely mention it here. And this is the example of this pop-up menu if you hover your mouse over it. And then if you created a new course or if you revamped the existing course, you should definitely write your effort about that down here. Okay, so make sure you document all this effort you had on the, improving the teaching. Okay, and this is a new section, professional development activities related to teaching. So if you participate in a workshop or the courses to improve your teaching skills or increase your cultural diversity awareness for effective mentoring, please put those in these sections, and then the CAP will recognize your effort. And any diversity activities related to teaching, you can put it here. For example, if you give seminars to minority science programs, it's great. The one thing that I really like to emphasize is please do not put specific names of the person. You cannot write like so-and-so who is a URM student. It's the invasion of privacy, and we ask to delete all these names. So please do not include their specific names here. Okay, so, and this is just a little tip from the CAP. And so about the teaching evaluations, if you have a good teaching evaluation, that's great, but sometimes you get a negative comments, right? And that's completely fine. And what CAP is looking is that you actually recognize these negative comments and respond to it and showing, hey, I got these negative comments, but I'm trying to improve it in response to these comments. And that's what the CAP wants to see. And that should be explained in your teaching statement. And if the negative comments are kind of substantial, then that should be mentioned in the department letter. Negative comments is fine as long as you show that you are responding to these comments and try to make improvements. That's what the CAP wants. And if the review period is longer than 5 years, like in the promotion files, you just need to put the teaching evaluation for the latest 5 years. Same thing for publication, the latest 5 years. And another thing I want to mention is that because of the strike that happened last fall, so the teaching evaluations for that quarter would be watermarked. So that was the end of teaching. I don't know if you have any questions that we should answer here, or should we get through this first? Or
Well, we can take some questions at this point. If anyone,
okay.
We've been answering them as they come along in the chat.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Maybe I should just get going then. Okay, so then the next section, and we can come back and answer questions as well. And so the next section is the research and creative activities, right? And basically it comes down to peer-reviewed publications and the extramural funding. And so the section 3A is basically a new publications. And there are a few things. One is that, again, you want to have the newest publication at the top, oldest one at the bottom. And the numbering is very important. So this number assigned to the particular article should be same between AP-10 and CV. And so for those of you who just joined the UCI, and many of you are CV, the newest paper is numbered as 1. And so sooner you convert it, the less painful it is. Just please reverse it. And so the oldest paper should be signed as number 1, and the newest paper should have the biggest number, because this numbering cannot be changed from review to review. Once the number is assigned, it has to stay for your entire stay in UCI, because sometimes CAP will cross-check the older reviews. Okay, so that's important things. And the other thing is that it's very important to show whether the article publications are peer-reviewed or not. So this is just the one suggestions. You can have journal articles or research article peer-reviewed in one section, and invited reviews, book chapters, peer-reviewed in another sections, case reports, books, and commentary, which may not be peer-reviewed, and just have a separate list and numbering going. So that's one way to do it. But just make sure you stipulate whether the articles are peer-reviewed or not. Another important thing is whether you are the corresponding or co-corresponding authors or not. That should be, because those papers, that means you have a leadership role in that paper. So that has much more weight when the reviewers look at it. But CAP also recognizes the team science. So if you are middle author, then you should just stipulate your role. And there are, different people, they can put minor, major contributions or percentage contributions, but neither of those are that useful. What CAP wants to see is the actual context. For example, if you obtain the clinical specimens, which are really essential for the study, then you should explain that, right? Then it's easy for CAP to understand your critical contributions. You can still write major, minor, percentage, but those information is what CAP is looking for. And another thing I strongly recommend is to put your name in a bold letter, because especially if you have multi-author papers, it's really easier for the reviewers if your name is in bold letter. So please do that. Okay, and then if you think, you have a lot of papers in the pipeline, but you just don't feel you have enough papers to put it in here, you could include bioarchive papers, but make sure to stipulate that these are non-peer reviewed. And next time when you go up for the review, these papers need to be going to relisted in the actual journal in the section 3B. Okay, so that's this part. And then so section 3B is typically left blank for the regular merit, but if you're going for promotions which cover a longer period than just from the previous review, or if you have this non-peer reviewed paper now, it's published in a peer-reviewed journals, those should be listed here. Okay, and these are typically left blank, but you can look at this, a different section here if that's applicable. And one thing I wanted to mention was that the CAP really wants to understand the impact of your paper. So if your paper was published in Nature Cell Science with very high impact factor, you should mention that. But putting the impact factor for every single journals is not very helpful, and it's unnecessary, because there are many journals which are well-respected specialized journals which may not have that high impact factor, then you don't need to list them. But if your paper, for example, published in these specialized journals, but it's really well cited by peers in the field, that's really important. In that case, you can, for example, use RCR values, to kind of, show that. And so just be flexible and use this information so that you can explain the impact significance of your study to the reviewers. And another thing I want to reiterate is that not everyone needs to have research articles, right? For the HS Clinical X adjunct faculty members, peer-reviewed case reports, review articles, book chapters, these are really great creative activities, so that's fine. And so as development of teaching materials and of course clinical trials these are really important creative activities that for those series. So that's completely fine. And moving on for section 3D, if you publish any like a video paper or maintaining the websites, you can put it here. If you file patent or the active patent during the review period, please list it here. And for the contracts, grants, and fellowship, please make sure that you're providing this information in this order. And so if the information was previously submitted or not, yes or no, funding source, NIH, this funding agency's name, and if it's a clinical trials, any company's names who's funding this, your research, and the grants number or title, and your role as PI, co-I, or site PI. And there's a lot more weight on those grants and the clinical trials as you as a principal investigators, right? And then so make sure you have some of those. And then the amount, either total or direct amount, and then the duration of the grants or clinical study. And I've seen some people put each grants and each year separately. Please don't do that. For this, under the same grant number, you can just put it and then put a duration and the total amount. And for those, okay, all right. And then this is just mentioning that PI, MPI, site PI, these are really important. And the clinical trials, you can have, you know, many clinical trials, but it's important to have some as a site PI or the investigator initiated clinical trials. And also, if you prepared protocols that's IRB approved, but hasn't been funded or initiated yet, please don't list in this section here, but put it in your personal statements for creative activities. Okay. All right. And this is a little tip from the CAP. And so again, CAP wants to see the context. So you can explain the impact of your studies, creative activities in a personal statement concisely. And what they're looking at is the connection between the research activity and its impact and your leadership roles. Moving on, so this is the new section. If you did any, for example, if you participated in an NIH bootcamp to improve your grant writing skills, or if you participating in paper writing workshops, you can put it here. And if there's any diversity activities related to research creative activities, put it here. And for example, if your research really actually focus on the addressing healthcare disparity, that's great. You should definitely discuss it here. But the diversity is viewed very broadly. So if you're not sure, I suggest that you talk to your mentor or chair. They discuss what you can put it in here as well. Okay, so that was just at the end of section 3. Nimisha, should I just keep going or?
Yeah, keep going, and we're answering the questions in the chat as
good.
you're going along.
Okay, so now going into the service and professional recognition. So section 4 is any outside professional activities and evidence for professional recognition. So any awards you might have received, media coverage, membership in a professional organization, and serving as editor or reviewers for the journals or study sections, and the seminar invitations. Those should be documented here. And for those of you who do clinical activities, if you receive like a recognition as good best doctor in Orange County or super doctor USA, those are very important and easy evidence for clinical competence. And I should mention that if you have board certification, this is a good evidence for clinical competence. So please put it in a section 4B. And if you have a leadership roles in your division, clinical activities, or a director of a fellowship program, etc., please do not list it here, but list it on section 5, university service. And so section 4A, honors and awards. Like I said, you can put any awards that you received, or if you are elected as a fellow for the professional society, that's great, put it here. But this has to happen within the review period, right? And also the professional membership, put it here. And also, like I said before, the board certification, please put it down here. All right, and the C is basically invited seminars, either to other universities or educational organization here, and meetings, conferences down here. And also, if you presented, participating in seminars without being invited, but you participated in professional conferences or send your students to present posters in these conferences, by all means, list those down here under accepted presentations at professional meetings. And this is actually really important to show that you are actively presenting and disseminating the study to the peers in the field. So please put it here. Okay. And then if you are asked to make comments as an expert in an interview or media appearance, put it here. You don't need to go into too much details, just dates and description. And also, if there's somebody write a review article on you or on your study, put it here. That's also evidence for professional recognition. And if you serve as a session chairs or involved in the meeting organization, or if you are serving on the committees for professional societies, you can put it here, especially if you have some leadership roles. That's really important to document here. And the journal editor and a reviewer for the journals, that's a good signs of professional recognition. And also, if you're serving as a study section reviewers, either standing members, that's really good. It's evidence for national recognition for NIH. And also ad hoc reviewer for the grants. That's great. You should document this. And you should, as soon as you get invited, I suggest you jot it down somewhere, because sometimes it's hard to go back and say, when did I, serve in study section, right? So just record them. And the ad hoc reviewer for grants from foreign agencies like in Europe and Asia, this is another evidence for international recognition of your expertise. So you should definitely document those. And if you have consulting activities in this industry and government, you should put it here and stipulate if it's paid or pro bono. And the community outreach activities, these are highly encouraged. You should definitely document. And this is a new section, any professional development activities related to professional and public service. If you attended this faculty development series, professional development series, please put it here. And any diversity activity related to professional and public service. For example, if you serve on the committee for professional society directly addressing minority affairs, that's a great one to put in this section. Okay, so that was the section 4. And section 5 is any activities service activities you do for for university. And there are different sections. So section 5, A, B, C, D. So A is the university system-wide. So typically like a UCOP committees. And so maybe the junior faculty members may not have any and just leave it blank, which is fine. And then any campus, if you are Senate members, and then you're tenured, you are expected to serve on these campus-wide committees. It will be good to put it here. And then the School of Medicine committees down here, and any hospital committees, you should put it down here in school. If you serve on the committee for College of Health Sciences, you can put it in section B. And if you have any leadership roles in the department or division, you should definitely put it here, okay? And for junior faculty members, it may be just serving on the faculty search committees, which is completely fine, put it here. I noticed that many faculty members with clinical duties, you leave this section completely blank, thinking that you're not maybe serving as these, regular committees. But if you have any leadership roles in the division, please make sure to put it here, or the hospitals. And this is a little tip from the CAP. And so really the higher levels of service are required at higher ranks and steps. So if you're going up for a promotion for professors and a higher rank in the professors, not having enough leadership roles in these service activities actually hurt your review. So make sure you keep that in mind. And really, they want to look at the leadership role and also the effort and the main contributions, and not just a list of committees, and then these can be explained in your personal statement for service. Okay. And oh yeah, this is Dr. Parek.
So other examples of things that you may be doing that you may not be thinking that you should put on your AP-10. So when we think about university service, we think across the UC system. So if you are on a UC Office of the President Advisory Committee, that's an example. Or if you are the EPIC liaison for the UC system, that's an example. For campus-wide, that's when you're working with some of the other schools. So School of Nursing, School of Arts, the Samueli Institute, if you have an administrative role. Example of service under School of Medicine would be if you do medical student interviews, you do curriculum review for the medical students, you sit on an advisory committee from the dean's office, you are doing cross collaborations across departments. UCI Health and Hospital committees, just bullet point this here. If you're on division or department committees, please do include all of those. So for those who have residency training programs, remember if you're part of the PEC or the CCC, this is where to list it. If you're part of the Educational Curriculum Committee, a wellness committee, or if you're doing resident and fellow interviews, this would be the section to put it under.
Thank you. And this is applicable to clinical X or the in residence, some of the faculty members who have clinical activities. You can definitely list those in the service, university service section. Okay, so keep going. So the section E for section 5E, so this is the new section for professional development activities related to university or system-wide service. So if you have taken, participate in School of Medicine Leadership Academy, by all means, you should put it here. And any diversity activities related to university, you can put, for example, if you're involved in, junior faculty mentoring, and if you have paid extra effort to really try to help the URM faculty members, you can discuss that here. Or if you're graduate advisors and then really, involved in promoting the URM students, activities in career advancement, you can also discuss it here. But just remember, please do not put specific names of those people. Okay. So the diversity is something that CAP really recognize and encourage to describe it. And they encourage this information to be put it in the appropriate sections in the AP-10. And rather than having an extra essay, but if your major activities really on diversity, then by all means, you can have a separate personal statement on that as well. Okay. And if the activity is really significant, then that should be definitely highlighted in a department letter. And this is just an example of the diversity. Hello? Oh, diversity statement. So, like this is for the teaching, you can document, oh, I supervise 5 URM and 7 female students, but that's like sometimes you just wait and then they happen to come to your lab and so you supervise. So that's not that good diversity activity. But if you say you actually went out and actively recruited these students, or you took extra time to supervise them, help them apply for the minority fellowship, those are really good diversity activities. So you should definitely document. So this is just the example that you can take a look. Okay, and then the personal statements. And so reflected teaching statement is required, right? And then again, you want to address any negative teaching evaluations. And also you should emphasize any new course development, any new things that you did, you should definitely document it here. But the research and service statements are not required, but it's actually a really effective way to contextualize your activities so you can get good reviews, right? Because AP-10, sometimes there's so much information, people may not pick those up. So this is a great place to contextualize. And the maximum is 3 pages, but I suggest that you should keep it less than 2 pages. It doesn't need to be long, but you should really just, think about this and worth spending time writing these statements. And so that's that. And then Just at the end, I wanted to mention about the UAW strike. So some faculties are more affected than the others. Some, lab, the students walked out and didn't come back to do research. So you don't need to go into personal details, but you can definitely describe impact of these circumstances in your personal statements. Okay, and like I said before, the teaching evaluations are watermarked. Okay. And I wanted to bring this up because recently there are several issues related to external letters. Okay, first and foremost, it's a common practice sometimes if you want to ask for a letter of support, you write the draft letter and send it to them, so they just need to modify a little bit and sign it, right, to just decrease their work. You don't do that for the external letters for the files, okay, promotions. Okay, please do not provide draft letters. These letters has to be analytical, and these letter writers have to spend time reviewing your files and come up with their own analytical letters. And it takes time and commitment. That's why we encourage department to start soliciting these letter writers as of June 1st, because not many people want to spend time on this, but that's what they have to do. Okay, and then for promotions and a professor above scale, you need at least 4 to 5 external letters, and at least 3 of them must be department nominated and non-conflicted. Okay, and this is maybe perhaps department analysts could help to confirm that they are truly non-conflicted. And those people cannot have a co-author paper with the faculty within the last 4 years. We've seen example that there's a multi-author papers, and even though the faculty never had any direct interactions, but the letter writers and the faculty are thrown into the same paper as a co-author, right? And then we had to provide explanations. So make sure that there's no co-authorship on these people. And we strongly recommend, especially for Clinical X series, to solicit department-nominated non-conflicted letters from other UC campuses, because letter writers in other universities, they don't understand the fine nuance of Clinical X series compared to the inline in residence series. And for example, the Clinical X faculty members don't need to have a research grants, right? They can have other research creative activities, but letter writers in other universities may not know that, and they might ding this. And so you don't want that. So make sure to include 1 or 2 letters from other UC campuses, and they need to be non-conflicted and department nominated. Otherwise, there's no point. And the former mentors are conflicted forever. And also, another common mistake is that the letter writers must be at or above the rank of the proposed candidate rank. Okay, so if you're going up for full professor, letter from associate professor is not good. So please make sure to have all the letters come from professors. If you're going up for tenure and becoming associate professor, no letters from assistant professors. And for the above scale, probably most of the letters from the distinguished, high rank professors, and you don't want to have all of them come from young professors, and definitely not associate professors. So this was actually pretty common thing. So if the department analyst could check that the rank is appropriate for the post the action, that would be really helpful. Okay, and I think that's that. And then candidate and department should generate 2 independent lists of letter writers. But the new rule is that if there's overlap, you can treat those as a department nominated. So that's really helpful. All right. And so the little tips from the CAP. So the external letters, the one thing is that avoid selecting same reviewers from the previous actions for the same candidate. So if you use certain set of people for the assistant to associate promotion, don't use those people again for associate to full professor. Okay, and the department chair, dean's letters, they said shorter is better, often better. And the one important things I want to say is that for the acceleration, the department letter really needs to stipulate which 2 of the 3 areas that are outstanding to justify acceleration. Please stipulate that in the letter. Okay, and so typically that's research / creative activity and the teaching, or research and the service. But the department, it will be really helpful for the department letters to clearly say that. And again, adjunct series only require 2 out of the 3 activities. So if the department letter could also stipulate which 2 areas that particular adjunct professor is focusing on, that will be helpful. And again, those of you who have clinical duties, the department letter should also address the 4th category, the clinical competence. Okay. So it'll be really helpful if the letter has the actually subheading for creative activities, teaching, mentoring, and professional university service, and the clinical competence. That will be helpful. So I just wanted to kind of mention at the end that this is the old record, fiscal year 2021, but 17% of total files went out to CAP from School of Medicine, and only half of them acceleration, and only half of them are successful. And we don't know the final numbers yet, but this year we have seen plenty of the denial for the acceleration request already. So if you think you deserve it, it's important you should consult with the mentor and chair. And if you think you deserve it, by all means, you should go for acceleration. But you should probably not go like say, hey, you know, I'm just going to try and see what happens. You may not want to do that because it might be a waste of time and effort for a lot of people. So just keep this in mind. Okay, so this is the last slide. So we just wanted to emphasize that it's a bit of work to fill out this AP-10, but you know, this is about your career advancement. You worked so hard, so I just want to make sure that your efforts and accomplishments are properly recognized by the reviewers. And so that's why hopefully this webinar and the slides are helpful for you to fill out the AP-10. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kyoko. We'll stay online for a few more minutes if anyone has any further questions. This will be recorded and the slides will be available as well. We are very grateful for all those who came out today. Please do share with your colleagues, your department analysts. Also, we do have a university website where this is getting posted. The new School of Medicine website is under format, so thank you for that suggestion.
Hello? Wait.
Whoops, we can talk offline about that. But we do ask if all of you guys can fill out the survey. We'll post it here, or you'll also receive it in your email. I do not have an example of a spreadsheet for each AP-10 other than just using this form and then making each of the different sections one of the tabs and then doing it by section. So everyone has a different system. Some people just keep a file on their phone and they snap pictures of the things that they're doing and then they do it later. Some people do it on the AP-10. Some people do it on their CV. So you'll hear lots of different ways to keep track of it.
If you like, we can stop recording so you can ask questions freely.
Yes, we can stop recording. Your question about